Can
You alright? Here we go. Oh, go on, fucking Zorro. You got this whole. Is that still a thing now? I always thought it was a thing in the 90s. Is there still a level of infamy in this game now?
Well, every now and again,
Alright, are you still out there, did I see then? Is that what it is?
not too much, mainly legal stuff, but there's some occasional bombing.
Yeah, well, we've got to catch you first, didn't they? They have trouble catching fucking. They've got more chance of catching COVID, mate. But yeah, man, I'll get to it. Listen, firstly, obviously, thanks for getting involved because I always make it a thing really to speak to the artist because I think that any artist that's involved on any level, especially with galleries being the way that they are, it seems, we didn't really want to get into the gallery thing because it seemed like it was always a thing with, galleries in China, for a great example, where there just seems to be a lot of investment banking and, people sending canvases and they don't get returned. And it just became this really kind of like very clinical way of dealing with it. And I think, the art which we have at Aurum Gallery, obviously curating it, it's basically all my mates from around the world, which is brilliant. And we have some, like even with Simon Berger, who, there's different people that get to know us through the music.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even really they wouldn't have really gone out and raved as much, but they latched onto the music and not so much the graffiti. They were more on that side of the world, whereas you're on this side. It's interesting because, I think that every artist's journey is interesting, and I think I like the goals in the back, by the way. Was that a nice gesture of intent?
It was a happy accident. That's painted by my mate. One of my mates.
Good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I like that. I like that. I mean, let's get to it, man. I mean, most artists are very complex people, and we have a lot of stuff. I like to just play music and play for hours and, produce and be really intense with the detail of the wild style of the music. I always have done.
Yeah.
But obviously I stepped off and Howard Nosm came in, New York Tats crew. God bless my boys, that's the family. But with you, you've all got a thing, that's my thing. But your thing's jumping out of fucking planes.
Yeah.
That's your thing. I mean, why, without giving too much away, what was it? Because I was in New Zealand, I think it was my 42nd birthday. And it was like, you're going to do the bungee, you're going to do the Nevis, and then you're going to go up in a plane, and you're going to jump. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And obviously did it. And it's a thing I'd do if I didn't think there was a slight danger to my life existence. But what is it with you? What is this thing? Is the art not enough?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I quit drinking last summer, and I took up base jumping just randomly. I just fancied trying it out with no experience, with no previous experience. But I've got one tutor, so he taught me how to jump off wind turbines and mobile phone aerials and stuff. But I got to my 13th jump. I jumped off Beachy Head down on the coast, and I turned left instead of right, and I ran out of beach and I landed on a rock, and had to have some metal plates put in my wrist. They're out now, so I'll be back jumping like next month.
Just don't turn left instead. Just turn right. Always turn right.
It was that. Oh, yeah, it was that particular.
It's a great intro. I mean, look, I don't know how, Ari. I just saw you online for a while. I'd heard about you, and I'm always fascinated with artists that have something really unique. And I think that you couldn't have chosen a more harder subject matter. Balloons, the idea of light. I mean, please, it's like starting at the deep end, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's like a real, obviously the graph thing's one thing and bombing's another thing.
Yeah.
But even graph writers find it difficult to adapt to contemporary in the way that you've done. What is the fascination with it? You know, I could look at Jeff Koons, for example, and say there's a fascination with inflatables.
Yeah,
Is it something as mundane, or it's not something that's thought about in that way? You know, I think every graffiti writer has a trick, and I think,
yeah.
you know. So what is it with you, the fascination of balloons?
Well, what it was, I used to be a prop maker for Nickelodeon and like MTV and all that lot. So I come from a sculptural background. So everything I kind of thought in 3D. The first time I painted a wedding venue for somebody, they wanted some different types of dogs on the walls. So I did a balloon dog. It was like 2008, I think. And I realized how 3D it looked, and it popped off the wall so well that I just took it and ran with it.
That's
And
like
then
24 years ago. 20.
yeah,
It's like 10, 11, 12. It's not like, it's not far. It's not long. It's amazing.
so I wasn't mess. I wasn't. I didn't come from a graffiti background. I was tagging when I was a kid a little bit, you know,
Most kids
stickers.
were.
Yeah. But the spray cans was started as a hobby, and then ended up doing it every weekend, getting quite obsessed by painting, and using that sort of balloon animals as a sort of formula, and then realized how many different types of balloons there were. Like out with the foil letters,
Yeah.
and now I just think in it's like a formula. If I think of an idea, I'll throw some reflection in there, some shadows. Something might be shiny, something might be inflatable.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
That's fascinating. That is fascinating. I mean, because there is a wave, and you guys were that kind of, I think, second new wave of these artists that were doing these, you know, really in detail stuff, not just your kind of normal stencil stuff from the kind of
Yeah.
first kind of Banksy era type stuff, but taking it somewhere else. And I think some of the shadow stuff you've done, and that wonderful collab with the Wasp, I think I just recently saw, which was phenomenal. Like,
Oh
wow,
yeah.
that was a
Cheers.
pretty dope piece. I mean, if your top three artists, would you have ever, you know, graffiti writers are like this. We're just there. We just don't look at the world of art. We don't even know what this stuff is. We've always been like that. We don't even know. But would Jeff Koons been a thing for you coming up with his inflatables, for example? Or was it a complete another generation for you? Which it was.
I really think about or know about him when I painted my balloon animal. People mentioned his name afterwards, and I saw, wow, that looks pretty cool. But
Yeah.
I've never taken inspiration directly from.
That's insane. That's brilliant. It's in a good way, though. It's like when you find out about an album, somebody says this album is very familiar to a sound of yours, and you go and listen and think, never heard this before, but it's really inspiring from another angle. Do you know what I mean? It's like another wind, you know, another wind in the sail. Because I always felt, I mean, I think this at the Serpentine Gallery, I went to see his work, going back about 16, 17 years ago, a show that he did.
Yeah.
And just having somebody standing next to each piece, because you have this primal, you want to touch it. You know what I mean? It's like you just want to touch these inflatables, and the idea of, and I think his whole perspective, which I thought was really interesting, was the idea that for him, in a Freudian way, growing up with inflatables is the one thing that you'd have on a holiday, which is fully inflated, and then within a week it's kind of slightly deflated, and then the dream and the holiday falls apart, and you're back in a normal environment, which I thought was a really great explanation to why you wanted to keep this thing alive. I think it's safe to say that I think in a lot of ways, you know, you doing your own journey, taking it somewhere else completely is amazing. I mean, I think it's fascinating stuff in the same way that if I look at the way that Voida will work with his transparency, which I've never seen done, or Aches from Ireland doing his Aches thing, which was like, it's so, you know, it's so 1980s TV, but yet it's right there, and no one's really done it and executed it in the way that he has.
Yeah, so good.
It's just ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? So there is another level of that, I think, or neon painters, for example. So what is it for you? I mean, obviously we're really blessed to have the prints, which had to prize from your little fucking hands. It's like, prize them out of your hands. Because obviously now, you know, your work's very sought after. And I guess, like anything, drying time, man, and normal life gets in the way. I mean, how much time do you have?
Well, at the minute, I'm kind of flat out working for a solo show in Brighton. And yeah, all the prints were selling out previously, so the only ones I had were in my studio were very limited. So that's why I only managed to send you a few. But yeah, there's more. There's two more print releases coming out soon. I've got on that NFT, jumped on that NFT bandwagon. I didn't want. I didn't understand it.
Yeah,
But
well, we all, you know, it's one of those things that whether or not, listen, if you've got a thing and someone's buying it for the sake and you've already got the original, hey, you know what I mean? Knock yourselves out, mate. Take, you know, like
yeah,
when I want to search your bag at the airport to find, go ahead, mate, knock yourself out. Enjoy yourself. It's fine. Pay me on the other end. It's not a problem. But I think the physicals, you know, the physical is the physical. It's always going to be, I think there's something special about your work that when you're, I guess, I was in Brick Lane, there's a few of your pieces there, obviously a stomping ground. My boy GQ lives there, and renowned MC. You know, I'm always getting bagels from Brick Lane when I'm down there. And I saw a
yeah,
few bits and pieces that, you know, quite old now. But, you know, it's very synonymous with your identity. And I just don't think I've ever seen anyone taking it to another level. You know, Coons is a god in that sense. He's done that. But you've already
yeah,
taken it to another level altogether. You know what I mean? Which is another generation, another level, expanded it, you know, with all these different inflatables. And I mean, it's crazy because the mixed medium that you use also, with crayon on the prints and, you know, like line on the lines of the chrome and the reflection. You must
yeah.
think in this shit all day long.
Yeah, it does my head in sometimes. My brain doesn't turn itself off ever. But not, unlike Voida, who can paint with oils really well. I've never learned how to paint with oils, so I draw with biros and pencils, and I use masking techniques with spray paint. And that's just the way I've found it works for me.
Mm. Well,
Uh,
each to their own. It's each to their own. I think
yeah,
your technique has always been that, going from biro to pen to crayon to whatever gets the end result. It doesn't matter, man. It's like music, right? Whatever we're taking samples from, whatever, we don't care. As long as
layer-
it works and it's roughage, we don't business. It's
yeah,
important.
layers and layers, mate.
So your 2008 was where you really got the bug. Your first
Yeah,
time doing this thing.
yeah,
2008, you know, then you look at 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22. You know, you're nearly 15 plus. It's a big step in a short space of time. No disrespect no disrespect intended, but
that's all right.
that's what I find about guys that grow up with so much influence in the UK, especially the UK. It's such a melting pot of ideas, and of course, internet's here. You get all this global
Yeah.
perspective. But who would you say are your three favourite artists that really
My,
inspire you?
my three favorite sort of, they're kind of like mates or artists. Well, I've got One Up Crew, obviously, because of what they do. They they take vandalism and they make it into positive vandalism, like One United Power. I'm sure the Berlin police don't see it like that, but that's how
I
I've
think
painted with
they've
them.
done, yeah, they've done amazing things. I mean, look at what they've done. Even the coral reef stuff they've done, the stuff I saw
Yeah,
at Vanguard, you know, with that whole project was just insane. I mean, yeah, if you can take it to another level of what you call, it's come a long way since Cap. You're like, I mean, a bomb. You know what I mean? They really went all out. I mean,
uh,
it's at the global level, and it's been welcomed. You know, and it's this latency with the authorities, I guess. So they're your number one.
yeah. Well, yeah. Bomb K from the Mental Vapors crew.
Okay.
I love his style. I want to own one of his pieces. I still don't. I've never met him, but I love his illustrations, his
Yeah.
pencil drawing, And another one who's relatively new is my mate Nuno from Portugal.
Nuno rings a bell. Nuno,
He
with
does,
the cans and the mask.
yeah, the shirt
Oh,
mask.
forget it. I just forget it, man. I mean, he's another one that's on my radar hard, man. I know he's really busy as well, but I mean that's my bucket list for next year. Him and you on a few originals. You know, we've got a lot of prints, but he's doing. I mean, some of the stuff with the cans that he's doing, and just the whole idea of this. The mask is with this anonymous character. He's again just a bad idea. Just a really original. He's pretty sick, man. Pretty sick puppy. There's definitely something wrong with him, and he definitely got dropped on his head a few times as a kid.
He's a big perfectionist. He's to the. I don't know anyone more precise than him as a painter. I'd off painting sort of paper aeroplanes that had been tagged up, and then he did the shirt masks, and like people request certain shirts as shirt masks now. He does commissions for people, and they're all, every single one, they're getting better and better. I don't know how they are, but they are.
It's a whole thing. He's got a whole, Benetton of shirt masks you can use. Whether or not he's going into NFTs, you can do all that stuff with doing that stuff. He could just go forever on that stuff. I mean, like you said, the precision on his shading.
Yeah.
There's some people that are pretty special with it.
Yeah, man. He's relatively new. He's flat out now. Like, I remember when I first met him, it was, I don't know, maybe about 5 years ago. We'd done a few collaborations, and he was really happy that he was hanging out with us. That's how new he is.
Oh, those guys that come to the club and they crush. I've had a few of these artists that are new and they come and they've been putting our music on their heads in like 20, 22. And they come to the club and they play and they crush. And you're like, they're excited. They're just so excited. Do you know what I mean? But they're like, great. And I think there's this new blood. I mean, to me, that guy, it's scary to think what he's going to be like in 10 years as well. It's like, what the fuck does he do? Do you know what I mean? It's pretty important. But, being in London and doing, obviously jumping out of fucking planes and, phone mascots and everything else. What is your end game? I mean, are you happy with just, solo show to solo show? Do you have a thing where you think, oh, what would be your thing? Because when I was coming up, I just wanted to paint. And all the other stuff that came with it, I just want to fucking paint. What's your thing? What would be your dream out, for example? Your dream out. Would it be island in the sun, chilling out, painting what the fuck I want in my own time?
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. That sounds all right. I've always been into the idea of having enough money and enough space to go back to my sculpting roots and do gigantic pieces. So that is on the radar. I've got some pieces that are already in construction now, but they're still relatively small. I want to make it some big things at some point, 3D things, and carry on traveling when all this COVID's over. Before COVID, I was over in Japan and Brazil and everything, and I want to go back over to those places, especially Tokyo. It really kicked off. I got a lot of customers in Tokyo now because of the sort of kitsch nature of my stuff.
Yeah,
goes down. They love it.
It makes a lot of sense. I think that in the Tokyo market, the whole balloon and the whole thing, whether it's kiddie and it's all that vibe of playfulness. I think and also that serious twist that you have to some of your stuff as well. There is a little bit of an undertone twist I see on some, which I really love. And I think there's a great for you, that market. But here's the thing, it was kind of crazy because you came from the modelling world. When you just kind of went, oh, I'm out of that, and then you're into this. Isn't it crazy how insane that world has become? I mean, the ability that you can have now to map 3D, programs that can, render stuff. I was doing a skull once, which was a bronze skull. We did it in Fawn Street in the UK, East End, the old Fawn Street gallery. In proper bronze, chrome plated it twice. I did all those ornate roses. But it was a kid from Lithuania. I just gave him a photograph of the painted skull. just a two-dimensional painting, and he just rendered it. You know, because I'd bought the original skull from a taxidermist in Brighton, as it goes, and photographed the skull, and then broke the image down in Photoshop, and then rebuilt it with all my line work and did it. And then I thought, great, done the painting, great, send it back. You know, hide it for like 10 days. And then at the end of the 26 pieces, I'm like, shit, why don't I do a sculpture? And I'm like, great, where's the skull? Oh, he sent it back. I'm like, shit. And I phoned up and says, can I get that skull that belongs to, I don't know, Mark Jacob from, you know, who died at 75 in some Booneyville place, who obviously was a human skull. Anyway, the guys, it's gone. That's it, it's gone. So I thought, shit, but I took the photographs and just rendered it from there. I mean, you couldn't have done that shit 20 years ago.
No, it's not what they can do now. I'm so old school. I'm still very much pen, paper. I only use my computer to watch Netflix, you know.
We're very much the same in that respect. Definitely. I'm fingers and thumbs. I've got people to do that shit. But, you know, the scale you're working on, you talked about scaling, and I look at people like, you know, James Bullough, who's a good friend of mine.
He's a good mate of mine.
James is, I mean, he's another insane creature.
Yeah, he's good.
We're just putting him up next week with his interview for Aurum. I mean, this guy came from the same world of just growing up on the music, and he just decided, he just upped and loved drum and bass music, went to Germany, started oil painting. That's it. And started doing this crazy stuff. I mean, are you familiar with his work?
Yeah, we've hung out loads, man. He's a good friend. Yeah, we're part of a kind of a loosely based crew. Yeah, he's another one with precision, like the peeling of the paint.
I spoke to him last week about that. I mean, that's just, you can, you know, cutting it up is one thing, because he's obviously into computers and he's always ahead of the curve with that. You know, doing the image and then repeating the image not only once but twice or 3 times is one thing. But then taking the piss with the ultimate wall style curling edges, please, you know what I mean? Like roundhouse kick to the face, right? It's just like, it's embarrassing. It really is.
Yeah. It's like two cherries on top of the cake.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's looking, you know, this year into the fall, we're looking again a few pieces. The prints went immediately before we'd even put them up. They'd gone. Because he's so precise, and with him, you know, he's definitely on the back foot, because the drying time for him as well. You know, and I said to him last week, why have you not switched, you know, like just on a cheap version of acrylic, you know, go the BMW route as opposed to the Rolls Royce route, and it just doesn't appeal to him. It just does. I'm sure you've had the same conversation with him. Yeah,
he's a perfectionist too, same level as Nuno, I think, man.
Yeah.
Although I think Nuno's still acrylic, and James is oils. I think James got an assistant, but it's only, you know, it's still, I've been to his studio, and it takes a while to make one of those beasts. They're lovely.
Yeah, I mean, his thing for me, the art of scaling, is just, that blew my mind, being in music for 20 years and thinking, what? They fucking projecting into this big area? Like, how the fuck can they do? Like, even the technology behind it, I'm like, man, I'm baffled. Even by the squiggles and doing stuff, I'm like, man, this is. So I mean, you know, you're all the way out there on a cherry picker and thinking, shit, is this in the right fucking place? You're going all the way down to check. It's like, it's mind blowing. I think that's what gets me. It's graphing 10-foot walls, great. Scaling's easy. Letterform, brilliant. But with that stuff, vertical ascent, what they're doing is unbelievable. And you've done a few big pieces. How have you found? Obviously, it's time consuming, but how have you found that with the scaling stuff? Was it an easy transition?
Yeah, actually, I thought it's going to be a lot harder, but using that sort of squiggle grid technique, especially if you've got a cherry picker, you can just pull yourself away from the wall and then pull yourself back again, just to double check where you are.
Right.
And then once you've got the outline down, you know where you are.
Yeah.
And then tidy yourself up. I'm not a believer in projecting things. You go to my number, you catch everyone projecting at 4 a.m, and it's a bit lazy.
No, I don't
So
know. You know what? I'm going to play devil's advocate. If you're using masking tape, then it's the same thing as people saying, a painter could say, well, you're not cutting back, it's being lazy. I actually disagree. I think, I don't do it, but I actually think, man, if you're already in fucking Rome, eat lions. You know, if you're already in a situation where it's time and you're saving time and you're getting the outline down, which is essentially what you want to do, I think the
yeah,
skill's in the can. You know, it's like,
well, definitely. The only thing is, if it's your own artwork you've created yourself, that then you're projecting. Fine. If you're projecting a photograph onto a wall,
have someone else's shit. I get it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
that's,
I'm here for contemporary artists doing their thing, whether it's Cobra, whether it's yourself, or whether it's Bullo. You know, I think if it's your own artwork and from creation, then you are the creator, and it doesn't. I don't care what it takes for it to be done. I mean, I couldn't even get my head around squiggle technique. It was just doing my head in, whether it's dyslexia or whether it's just a mental block. No one ever really got to show me, you know, you can do that. And you know, Mr. Sens was saying, you know, Sens was saying, oh, gee, you put it on the prime when you just fade it. And I'm like, too much. You got to show me. I'm just too much. I'm just too much. Yeah, I'm too much. But yeah, going back to the show. So is this your biggest solo show today? Because you've done shows before.
yeah. I had a show in New York, one in Tokyo, one in London, one in Melbourne. I'm doing one in Brighton just because I've moved to the area. It's not the biggest, it's a big gallery, but what they're doing is they're just giving me one big wall and they're keeping the rest of the gallery the same as it is.
Wow.
So I'll have a mixture of sort of sculpture bits. I've got some rugs, I've got some little sculptures, some big sculptures, framed prints, originals. It's like an 11-meter long wall, I think. So it's just going to
Wow.
be all one wall.
Different medium. It's very hard to get rugs in the UK, I've found. You know,
Yeah,
we're looking at different areas, and obviously, you know, rug burners in New York, but it's a long process with that. And obviously, it's New York, and it's the same kind of taxes and stuff. But we're looking
yeah,
at that because it's interesting stuff. The way that you can, you know, some of the Van Baudet stuff his son's been doing. I don't know if you're familiar with rug burners. Pretty, really executed really well. The depth of level what they're doing, from the train stuff to, like, you know, old kind of train maps and stuff, and some really beautiful stuff. It's called Rug Burners. You check them out. And the guy's a lovely fella. But yeah, well, you know, China's the other option. And yeah, do you know what I mean? So you got to get it on the money. So you're
yeah.
going to be doing 11 meters in Brighton. When does the show start?
August the 5th. Not sure how long it's running for. Probably a week or two.
Right.
Yeah, I've got a print release out for that especially. It's Pride weekend down there apparently too, the same time.
Right.
So I'm
Yeah,
currently
it is
working.
actually. Yes, Pride that weekend. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
very busy. It's been huge down there.
I'm
So
currently
after so after
gonna.
you've done this show, for you, what's the next thing? You know, obviously travel, getting back to,
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Brazil.
It's going back to Brazil, doing a piece with maybe Alex Senna or Crane. We had a Cranio who does the little blue characters. He's a
Yeah,
good friend.
yeah.
So I think there's a big space in Brazil that's being offered up. There's talk of Finland. There's usually the odd UK bits and pieces. It changes day by day, really. Some happen, some don't happen. You know, like yeah, the amount of things I've got written in a diary and then crossed out is ridiculous.
Well,
Because just all
we've all had to deal with COVID. I mean, we've just revamped all the gallery, all the new work, and it was pointless doing it before because no one would have seen it. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So we've got a wonderful Simon Burgess show, June 30th, I think. I'm flying back off tour for that. And he works in
yeah,
broken glass, which is really interesting. Again, very original what he's doing. I find that very fascinating stuff. But
yeah.
here's the thing I've got to ask you, because it's been bothering me, man. Fanakapan, man. The name. Where the hell does the name... Where does it come in? Where does it come from?
Yeah, well, basically, when I was a kid, my mum used to always call my sister Fanakapan.
Why? Like, is it something I've missed out on English culture that I don't know about? Fanakapan. Is it an old kind of like folklore thing that I'm missing a trick here?
It's really old. There's a song called Fred Fanakapan from like the wartime. by Gracie Fields.
Shit. Okay.
Apparently there was a racehorse called Fanakapan and all sorts of stuff. It's just a name that stuck in my head. My mum used to call it. She used to say, "Come on, Fanny Fanakapan."
Fanny. I'm like fanny pack. No, that's a bag. Do you know what I mean? So it's a nickname. So Fanakapan. Yeah, I would have thought a horse would have been. Yeah, that would have been something. So it was an old song.
Yeah.
And a thing of like kind of like folklore kind of type thing. I would have thought.
It was an old lady moaning about her useless husband called Fred.
Well, you're far from it. He just stuck though, you odd man. That's brilliant, though. That is brilliant. I mean, from an English point of view, you're going to ask it, but do people even bother asking you from abroad, or they just think it's like it's cool? That's brilliant.
A lot of people ask me, they're like, where did that come from? I like it because it kind of stands out. There's not too many of them on the internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That is definitely original. Definitely original.
Yeah, I get asked a lot where it comes from. I think it was up north. It was a northern
thing. Yeah.
Term almost. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I'm super stoked that you put the time in to do this, because obviously yesterday I was a bit mad. And obviously I'm really happy that you blessed me with some of the works from the Prince, which I'm really blessed for. And it's nice because I've always wanted a piece of your work in there and a few pieces of your work at the gallery, because Thailand often gets leapfrogged into China, you know, with different galleries. And I think, I like the idea. We've got the leading contemporary gallery in Thailand, to be fair. I mean, our place is like it's like a museum. It's full on. You know what I mean? It's a lot of work in there that we love. The new Nick Walker Mona Lisa's brilliant. That just arrived.
Yeah.
No, which is number 1 of 3. We made sure we got number 1. You know, and it's just a brilliant piece. I think he's just Nick. I've always had a lot of time for Nick because he's quirky and he's an original OG. You know, and Bristol's got to share a lot of stories in the same crew. So I'm really happy that we've got that there. You know, we're opening back up and people can see it and stuff. I mean, it's amazing. It's a brilliant gallery, and I'm really happy for it. So I want to thank you so much for that from the team.
Well, yeah, no worries, man. Thanks for asking me.
Cool, man. So hopefully in the fall we can get a few originals later on. You know, finish what you're doing, and we've wrapped now. And I'll be in London June, July, August for some of the events. If you fancy rolling out and getting your head taken out with some good sonics, feel free. I love that gold teeth paint. That's such brilliant light on that.
Oh, no.
Such great light.
Nick Flat, check him out.
Yeah, I will do. I love it. He can do mine. All right, listen, God bless you, man. And Fanakapan, it's been amazing. Thank you. This is Aurum Art Gallery, and Fanakapan, infamous on the streets of London and more infamous worldwide. Look out for his solo show in Brighton. When is that show happening in Brighton?
From August the 5th.
August the 5th onward, he's going to run. He's doing an 11-metre wall and piece installation with various pieces of his mixed medium art. Check him out. He's a legend in his own game, and God bless you. Mr. Goldie signing out. Love you, brother. Thanks, man. Peace out.